Ends with Us is a film based on a best-selling book by Colleen Hoover of the same name, and I don't think I could describe it without it being slightly spoilery. So I think people who are going to watch the review will be able to understand what it's about. But anyway, I'll try to be a bit discreet. But
Yeah.
basically, it's a woman focused on a woman played by Blake Lively. Her name is Lily Bloom, and she owns a flower shop in Boston. And she is trying to fulfill her dreams of, she's independent, she's going to afford now, she's got a building, she's got a job she likes, and she's just out celebrating, and she meets this handsome surgeon who is romantic, who is funny, is charming, and she ends up in a relationship with this man. And she, as they sort of get together and they get married, and then the sort of cracks are begin to appear, and he is not who she originally thought he was going to be. And there is elements of their relationship where he's the sort of, I'm going to have to go into spoiler territory because you just can't avoid it. But of domestic violence.
Yes.
He is almost in denial, where she wants to believe him when he said, "Oh, it was an accident. When I hit you in the face, it was because I was there was this reason, and when something else happened, it was because of this reason. It was like, I didn't push you, you tripped, you didn't see it, you just tripped, and I'm really sorry, I'd never hurt you." And then so she's willing to believe him, she wants to believe him. And then you realize why she's willing to believe him, because you see in flashback that she grew up in a home where her father was violent towards her mother. And she witnessed some of this violence, and she always said she's never going to be her mother. She isn't going to be person. And her mother, and when she confronts her mother about it, she said, "Why did you stay?" She said, "Well, I loved him. I loved him, and I chose to forgive him, and I was scared to leave. I was scared to make that break." And so she gets to that point where she's saying, "I never thought I'd turn into my mother in these circumstances." And there's an event in the storyline that makes her say, "No, I love you, but I cannot be in this relationship." And so I have to make that decision, that this cycle of domestic violence that I have found myself in most of my life has to end, and it ends with us. So she wants to make that conscious break with her past, and that also means looking at her relationship with her husband. Introduced into this, you get a backstory of her basically her first love, and how that all ties in with the story of her youth and the story of her sort of relationship with her husband. So you have got these different strands of the story that goes through. But it's effectively a story of a woman who is looking at confronting her past and her present, and trying to look at the future in a different way.
Is it anything like Sleeping with the Enemy, that film from ages ago?
Ooh, the Julia Roberts movie from the 90s.
Julia Roberts and Patrick Bergin.
Yeah.
Only in as much there's a theme of domestic violence in it.
Yeah, but I feel like that one was because I feel like everything I've heard about this film, because Sleeping with the Enemy was very much sensationalist. It was very much sensationalist. I was very much like, "Ooh, look at this domestic violence. How is she going to fight back?" And I felt
fight back. And he was almost like unrepentantly violent. He was controlling from the very beginning. And I think this is slightly more subtle in that you can make excuses for her husband. She makes excuses for him, and because they do it in such a way that they film it in such a way is that you think, did he really hit her, or was it? Could it have been an accident? Could she have misinterpreted it? Could we misinterpret it? And they introduce those elements of doubt, which sometimes are present in domestic and abusive relationships. And it's at the end that they clarify some of those issues. But with Sleeping with the Enemy, he was no question.
That's right. Yeah, he was nasty.
It was 90s. It was 90s. You needed a bad guy.
And I think in this one again, I think it's a film of its times and the book of its times, because they don't just say, okay, he does it because he's just a bad man, and they try to give a reason why he could be damaged and why damaged people react in certain ways, and how he is as much a victim of his past as she is like almost like carrying the weight of her own past with him. So you can understand it doesn't excuse his behaviour, but in any way, but it gives it a framework. And so they're trying to give it a framework within their relationship and within his past as well. So it's a nuanced film. I thought there's lots to like about it. A few things I thought, I'm not. Yeah, there's a few things I'm not sure I wasn't uncomfortable with, but because there's sort of elements, some of the publicity for it portrays this as just like a romantic comedy, not a romantic comedy, but like a romantic film, romantic drama, as it were. And because they introduce someone she knew in her past, and they've almost set it up to be almost like a love triangle. And it's not that. It isn't that at all. And I think by almost like selling it as a love triangle, she's got this person from her past who could be her future, and you've got this violent husband. Who's she going to choose? And it's like it's not as.
There seem to be a lot of recurring themes this week with films that require trigger warnings, films that might be about love triangle but not really, that kind of thing. But okay, so I'm actually, as much as I get annoyed by that Oscar music sound, it does actually help us stop getting carried away, because I was just kind of like, what? Oh, go! That's the time. But so how many stars would you give It Ends With Us?
But I think, even though I think there's some flawed elements to it, I still would probably give this a 4 for me. I liked it. There's a lot to like about it. Wasn't sensationalist. It wasn't simplistic in that the answers aren't easy. Some of the moving, sort of dealing with these things is not an easy topic. And I think they tried to do their best with it. So I would give it 4.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff.